channel. Firstly, I want to apologise for the lighting. I'm filming at night, so it might look a little bit different to all my other videos. Last week I took you through the first parts of constructing Vogue pattern 9267, and this week I want to take you through the last couple of steps, my thoughts on the pattern, and anything I might change for the next version that I'm going to be making in February. The pattern instructs you to sew 2 rows of gathering stitches and pull those until the dots line up with the shoulder piece. So I went ahead and did this, and I also sewed up the side seam. This step went fairly easily. I've done sleeve installations before, so I wasn't too worried. Next was to hem the sleeve, and I did this by rolling up the sleeve by 1/2 inch and then sewing it, rolling it up by another 1/2 inch and sewing that. After I completed that step, I just needed to then attach the sleeve to the main bodice. And I did this by sliding the sleeve turning the bodice inside out and sliding the sleeve into the bodice so that they were right sides facing, then sewing around the armhole. I initially basted around the armhole, so instead of doing the final stitches, I just went around to test that it fit properly, that it was lying nicely, and then I went ahead and stitched it with normal shorter stitches. I also went ahead and finished the edge of the sleeve with pinking shears just so that it wouldn't fray. I could also have done this with bias binding, but the layers of fabric were quite thick at this stage, so pinking shears seemed like the better option. At this stage I was pretty happy with how the bodice was looking, and I was ready to move on to attaching the waistband. To do this, I lay the waistband and the bottom of the bodice right sides facing, and so as instructed with my making sure to not catch the lining of the bodice, so just the one layer. Once I'd done this, I tested how the bodice fell on my body and realised that I probably extended the bodice too much when I initially did the pattern testing. So I repositioned the waistband until I was happy with where it's at. This is the 4th and final time that I'm picking this dress. This is it. It took quite a few attempts, and even after being happy with the position of the waistband, I didn't take into account for the fact that the skirt ended up being quite heavy, so the waistband pulled down even a little bit lower. I'll step through the adjustments I'm going to make for the pattern just to fix all of these little issues that I came across. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this dress. I want to try and stick to pulling out the things that I found positive about it, just because otherwise I have this tendency to list all the things that went wrong and I don't end up wearing the actual dress, even though it doesn't look that bad. So I've done all the pleating and sewn up the side seams as per the instructions. It was pretty straightforward. If you're going to try this pattern, I highly recommend, and thank you Birdie So Obsessed on Instagram for the advice as well. Even though I've already cut out the pattern pieces, I think I will take it when I do the second version of this in February, was that the pattern pieces show you these little cutout sections in the skirt, and then they come together to form the pleat. It's probably just as easy to just mark the dots and bring those together rather than cut all the fabric out. It takes quite a lot of time to cut, and it's also quite confusing when it comes to putting the pleats together. If you didn't cut out those sections, it would probably end up being fine just putting the pleats together, and I'll be trying that out with my next version. I guess watch that and see how that works out. Once I put the pleats into the lining and the actual crepe fabric, it was time to attach the bottom of the dress to the waistband. This went fairly easily. I didn't have to adjust a lot of things like I did with attaching the waistband to the bodice, because it kind of just all flowed on from there and was in the right place. So this is fitting number 5, I think. I have redone the placement of this waistband for the 4th time, and I actually think it might be okay now. So it falls at my natural waist. The bottom of the waistband falls at my natural waist. On the pattern, it mentions the dot for the waistline is a little bit up here somewhere, but when I put that down on my waistline, it just looks really weird, like a Lady on the Prairie type dress as opposed to what I'm wanting to go for. So I moved up the waistband a couple of times and fiddled with the placement. It looks like the lines where I'll be top stitching seem to line up fairly well, and I had to do a little fix at the front because I cut it. Yes, I cut my fabric and I'm killing myself for it, but you know what? Shit happens. So I've put a dart in. The cut comes about this low. When I was cutting the pieces, I didn't notice it, but I cut in the wrong spot because I cut my pieces over a couple of days, and yeah, I've got a freaking hole. So I put a dart in. It's not straight because the cut isn't straight, because why would it be easy like that? But that's what it looks like so far. The next step was to install an invisible zipper, and as far as zip installations go, this one was probably one of my better ones.
This zipper is definitely too long. It's ridiculous.
I only had to put it in once. However, I am still trying to figure out how to finish the bottom of the zipper. It wasn't really clear in the instructions, and I'm not sure that I did the right thing because it's still coming apart at the bottom. So I'll have to see what I'm going to do about that, and if you have any advice, please comment down below. I'd love to know how people finish the bottom of their zips. For me, it just kind of floats and it's weird, and I'm not really sure what the finishing should be. So yeah, any advice in that area we greatly appreciate. From here, I moved to sewing down the lining. Lastly, I went ahead and hemmed both the lining and the fashion fabric, and I did this just by turning over the lining fabric by about 3 or 4 inches. I kind of just eyeballed it based on how long the fashion fabric was, and then for the fashion fabric I just folded over the edge by 1/4 inch, sewed it down, and then folded over again with a 2-inch hem. I really like this pattern. It is the first one I tried to legitimately fit to my body, so every other time I've just made from the packet size, whatever the closest one is to my body measurements. This pattern I actually decided to try and make it fit me. Admittedly, I'm not very good at fitting yet, so it didn't come out perfectly, but I'm not mad at it. I did wear it to work on Friday, so it is wearable and I do enjoy wearing it. In the next version though, I'm going to do a couple of things. Firstly, I think I'm going to make the bodice, I'm going to fit the bodice a lot better, so I'm going to make another mock-up and test the fit for a little bit longer, maybe install a zip when I'm testing the fit. While I was taking classes in Sewed Academy, which I still am doing, in fact the next video will be a button-up shirt from Sewed Academy, they recommend that you get this book, Fit for Real People by Patty Palmer and Marta Alto. It's a really well-known book for fitting tissue patterns. Although I would rather fit a muslin than a tissue pattern because I like to preserve the tissue for future use. I am going to be going through this, and in the second version of this dress I'll be testing the sizing a lot more, just because it's something that I want to learn and it's something that's very useful down the line. So I'm going to be hitting the books and seeing if I can get a better fit for next time. So that's the first thing I want to change. The thing I wanted to change was trying to have the sleeveless version. So instead of view B, which had those lovely sleeves on it, I want to try and make view A, which is this one here. It's just exactly the same but a sleeveless version. And that's because when I wore the dress to work, I really noticed that all of my wardrobe in terms of work dresses don't have sleeves. In Australia it's very hot sometimes, and especially at this time of year, sleeves for me just end up being a hassle because it's too hot. So I want to try and make the sleeveless version. So I'm trying to make things that will fit into what I already have, and also in a style that I think I'll wear more often. So although I like the look of the sleeves, for me it's a little bit more formal, and I'd probably stick with the sleeveless for now. The third thing I want to try and do differently in the next one is to leave the lining out of the skirt. So when I lined the skirt and also had the fashion fabric, the dress overall ends up being quite heavy and quite hot. So as I mentioned, I'm in Australia, it's really hot at the moment. Having one less layer of fabric will only benefit me. So I'm going to construct it exactly in the same way, but when I come to the skirt, I'm going to leave off the lining. I think that's all the changes I want to make for the next time I try this pattern. Make sure that the fit is a little bit better, take off the sleeves and make view A, and also take out the lining from the skirt. I'll insert some footage here of the final try on. I just recorded this in my driveway. I'm honestly not a model, so please just ignore the fact that I look like a wooden board 90% of the time. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you have any advice for me about fitting or zip installations, especially how to finish the bottom of the zip and the top of the zip. I think I've got the installing the zip part down, but not quite the finishing. So stay tuned for next week. I'll be changing the upload schedule to Fridays instead of Mondays, so there'll be a bit of a gap. Next Monday there won't be anything, but next Friday at about 6 PM will be the next video.